And at 10, Five Nights at Boys. What the actual living hell is this game? Five Nights at Boys is a series of FNAF fan games made by using RPG Maker, so obviously not following the same principles as the original games. And it's a very crude take on the franchise that has you battling against party favors and recruiting other animatronics to join your team like a messed up version of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. The ultimate goal of the game is to defeat all security cameras and then defeat the final boss, and clearly it has an entirely different tone than the other games. The first game is based on the original FNAF, but introduces characters from the second like toy animatronics, Balloon Boy, and the Puppet. The second game is based on FNAF 2, with Toy Freddy being the main protagonist, and the third is based on FNAF 3, with Springtrap and Golden Freddy as playable characters. The games also have a final mixed version with a new story and updated content and balancing. The creators of F-Boys were fans of Golden Freddy's debauchery simulator, so aspects of those games have been covered as well. What? What? Oh my god. And at 9, Five Nights at Ripley's. Mostly known as Space Seclusion, the gameplay is like FNAF meets Alien Isolation, and it doesn't work. The animations for the alien itself are just way too human. It definitely wouldn't walk like that. And that's what makes the game feel less scary. The free roam mechanic is interesting, but it's not really going to help anyone when you're supposed to be watching the cameras to see where the alien is going. The game doesn't tell you the controls and tries to set itself up to be such a big and fun experience because it has infinite levels that just keep getting harder. But that to me seems like lazy game development. Infinite levels with increasing difficulty is like mobile game design. Having things get difficult and then adding new features should be the way to do it. Just because there are infinite nights doesn't make it not a FNAF clone with an Alien Isolation twist. And the name, Space Seclusion. Really? Talk about not creative, you just opened up the thesaurus and then found a synonym for isolation. And where do the aliens live? Space. And at 8, Five Nights at Weed. Created by a super Christian, which I think is ironic in and of itself, the only video on Game Jolt page is called I Love You, and it's just a crappy doll stop motion, and the only description of this game is a link to a couple of the sounds used in the game. The comments on the game are atrocious. Aside from people legit commenting first comment 2018 and first comment 2019, people are saying the game doesn't work and you can't do anything. They also are having viruses, as one of the commenters says. These comments are worse than the ones on the other FNAF videos hating on us for misgendering a robot. Like, it's literally a robot, who cares? They say the game is incompletable and that there is no point in playing it, and I'll take their comments as fact, because apparently even PewDiePie played this and couldn't get it to work. I don't want to give my computer some virus that's going to cause it to have to stay in its case for the next month and a half. Topical. And at 7, Timeline. Trying to think about a FNAF timeline is probably one of the worst mistakes or decisions that you can ever make. The FNAF timeline is not for the faint of heart, and honestly, if it wasn't my job at this point to think about it, I wouldn't even have touched the damn thing. Before we started making FNAF videos, do you think I was just sitting at home thinking about the timeline? No, I just trusted what MapPad said. And honestly, that's what I'm sure a lot of you do as well. There are some things in his FNAF theories that I would question, but since it wasn't my job to care, I really didn't. And it didn't make my life any worse, so trust me, if you aren't getting paid to talk about FNAF, or aren't trying to make a career by talking about FNAF and its convoluted what-if story timeline, don't bother. It can be fun to speculate, but don't invest a lot of time and energy into it because it will honestly have no benefits. Spend that time playing games with yourself or with your friends. Hell, even make like a D&D campaign based on FNAF. I mean, like, I was thinking about doing something like that for my own channel, but you could just use it as a way to have fun with the people who share your passion. But don't worry about the timeline though, okay? Trust me, all it brings is pain. And at 6, Panicking. Panicking when playing a FNAF game is bound to happen. It's happened to me the first time I played, and it happened to me the first time I played FNAF VR on the channel. What a video. However, what you really need to focus on is staying cool and calm and collected. Remembering that the animatronics can't actually hurt you and that panicking is only going to result in what you fear actually happening. If you're freaking out because you can't find Bonnie, you're not going to find Bonnie. Especially because he might be like in the back in like a shadow or something and really hard to see, and you're just flipping through trying to find him. Plus, panicking results in you closing doors to make sure that you don't get jump scared, and then that only makes you lose power faster, which ends up resulting in you getting jump scared because you're in pitch black. Panicking is the worst thing that you can do in any real horror scenario, so why would you do the same thing in a fake horror scenario unless you needed to do so for plot reasons, like you're in a movie? Exactly. So chill the F out, okay, and honk Freddy's nose a couple times to calm your nerves.
Halfway through into number 5, looking behind you. In FNAF VR, you have a whole range of motion for yourself. You can turn your head wherever you want, whenever you want, you can move up and down as you please, but honestly, none of that is going to do anything for you. Hiding underneath the desk, like what would be realistic for this scenario, is only going to result in you getting jump scared. Because the game only relies on the buttons you're pressing and the locations of the animatronics for information, rather than the location of the actual player. Plus, nothing ever really interesting is behind you, so looking behind you while you're in the middle of Night 5 of FNAF 3 isn't really going to help anyone other than Springtrap, so clear your mind, focus, and get me those pictures of Spider-Man! But no, honestly, don't waste your time looking behind you. You could end up missing vital information, like someone going into a vent, or someone now being at your door. Just keep your eyes on where the action can be and focus on what is actually going on, rather than looking for Easter eggs. Easter eggs are usually within that area anyway, aside from maybe helping in FNAF 2's filing cabinets, but still. In at 4, thinking logically. The FNAF world doesn't contain logic. I've said this once and I'll say it a million times. I will die on this hill every single time. The logical answer when it comes to what's going on in the FNAF universe is usually the incorrect answer. The door should close without power. Incorrect. The animatronics shouldn't actually be able to be possessed, especially by an emotion. Incorrect. The freaking door shouldn't be able to close without power. Incorrect. The only thing that really makes sense is how the light works. Just, that's it. Other than that, you just throw everything you know out the window. If you don't end up thinking logically, you'll be fine. Oh, this would be the most likely moment to attack? Nope, they'll do it when you're most aware. But now that you're thinking that a logical thinking is logical, it suddenly becomes illogical. It's an infinite loop and a paradox. That's what FNAF really is, a lie. One big lie that will never be solved. But you keep clicking on these damn videos, so I'll continue to talk about it. Can you see how this video is starting to break me?
Getting close to the end of number 3, 5 dank nights at memes. Look, considering how every time I try to say this title I say 5 nights at dank memes instead of the actual title should speak for itself. While yes, the game is bad, it somehow managed to get itself 2 sequels, one of which is still in the works to my knowledge. There's a phone guy call that is literally a robot reading the same Night 1 phone call that you get in FNAF. Plus, the doors are just red and gray boxes that say meme door and big meme door on them. Oh, also it's on Scratch. The cameras are inaccessible as far as I could tell, and the fact that Shrek is the one who killed me is sad. And he only killed me because there was a delay between opening the doors and then closing them again, which isn't present in the normal game. While yes, you made a game and it's impressive, you took no care in making the game good. If you had a little more concentration or devotion and had tried this again, it may have been good, but it's also available on Scratch and there is no good FNAF games on Scratch. And then 2, the worst Five Nights at Freddy's fan game. The worst Five Nights at Freddy's fan game ever is, as it suggests, the self-proclaimed worst FNAF fan game ever. Loosely based on the original FNAF game, the game itself has no plot, kind of like the original, before the others came out. It takes characters from multiple different universes and puts them together in combination with canon characters like Chica, and also terribly made original characters. The list includes Bubsy the Bobcats, Shrek the Ogre, Chica the Chicken, Slime the Slime, Dolly the poorly made doll, Mad Father, a Psycho Man, and Ouija the evil Luigi who appears when you run out of power. But sadly enough, this game, despite all the bad characteristics of it, is beat out by one game. What could this game be? How on earth could it beat out the worst Five Nights at Freddy's fan game? Well, finally, and in number 1, Five Nights at the Car. The description of the game is, "Hey bro, thanks for doing this job. You are a 10-year-old kid who is in his car at the mall waiting for your mom, but weird things want to kill you, so your job is to protect yourself from them. If you're hearing this, you're crazy." What? This game is so absurdly bad, it hurts me. Thanks for doing this job. We're 10 waiting in a car. What job? The game is literally just a PNG file that looks absolutely atrocious with no functionality. Don't get me wrong, I know it takes a lot to make a game, but I could make a better game than this with Scratch. This is just a cardinal sin of humanity, and it needs to be put down. Take it out to pasture. Put a bullet between the eyes. God, I hope this was a joke. It's a PNG file. Ah! It's so bad. Oh my god, it makes me mad. And at 10, Open Door. FNAF VR doesn't feature a full FNAF 4 game. However, the Dark Room section does feature a couple levels in the FNAF 4 house. These levels have a special scene that plays when one of the animatronics gets into your room on the opposite side that you're on, where instead of instantly scaring you, they actually open the door and walk in. Now, don't get me wrong, the animatronics when they enter your room are horrific. They're towering over you and there is no way to stop them once they come in. But after the initial horror is over and you've watched them walk in, the jump scare isn't that bad. Because at that point, you expect it. You know what's gonna happen. It's certainly a shock when you first see them, but once your brain has processed it, you're okay. Even if it's Nightmare Fredbear, and that says a lot. Night Terrors. It's called Night Terrors. That's the one. Not Dark Rooms, Night Terrors. There we go. And the 9 Yendo. What's scarier? An animatronic with a scary visual design, or an endoskeleton that has nothing else going on? Most of you are probably going to say a full animatronic, unless you're intentionally saying what you think will contradict my point. But Yendo is simply a naked Funtime Freddy. Some think that it's golden Funtime Freddy, but let's be honest here. For the purposes of a jump scare, they're just naked Funtime Freddy. And the Funtime Freddy jump scare is scary because his face can open. The opening of one's face is not natural and is therefore creepy. But this guy isn't opening his face. He can't. It's basically already open. And it's not like it's flesh and blood. It's metal robotic parts. Plus, you can get this jump scare when you're expecting Funtime Foxy, so the confusion will have to overtake the fear. It definitely will. Quickly, in fact. Plus, I just don't find Yendo or Endo scary. I don't. They don't do anything. And it ain't Foxy. The FNAF VR Parts and Service minigame series takes you through repairing each of the original 4 animatronics. Bonnie, Chica, Freddy, Foxy, in that order to be exact. And when it comes to the jump scares, most of them are unexpected, since it just cuts to black and then boom! But with Foxy, they tried something different. Since he's the last one, they mixed it up. And if you fail, the screen fades to black and then comes back with Foxy missing from his spot. You wait for a few seconds and then Foxy runs at you. But they ruined this moment of confusion by having Foxy run at you. If you look any of the 4 directions, you'll see him running too. So it's not like if you turn around to look for him, you won't be able to see him. And like I've been saying, anything that you can expect loses its effect. It may get you the first time, but once you know the pattern, you're good. It's like Pixels. You remember that great movie? You just gotta know the patterns. That's why I'm not scared to do the Foxy Parts and Service, but to get there I have to do the scary stuff, and I don't want to do that. I'm man enough to admit when I'm scared. And it's 5 Nights at YouTube office. Hello? Welcome to your new super job at the YouTube office. Now, there's some things you need to know. First off, there are some YouTubers who tend to wander and sleepwalking. They may try to attack you, but don't worry, they probably won't. We've been looking for someone to fill this position for a while. No one seems to want it because of the rumors that have been going around. Rumor has it some YouTubers are possessed and haunt the YouTube offices at your scheduled work time. That's specific. Also, we have given you your very own PewDiePie head. It should work on all the YouTubers except PewDiePie himself. With PewDiePie, you have to keep a music box wound up. But if you don't, he will come after you no matter what. But don't worry, just wind up the music box. Put on the PewDiePie head if you need to, and everything should be good. Piece of cake. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. That is the description this game gives you, and I had to correct some grammar. And man, this guy doesn't even know how to use periods. Ellipses don't go at the end of every sentence. But also, the game cover is just bad. Maybe it's intended to be a riff on the YouTube thumbnails, but the fact that people in this game are big YouTubers shows that the decision would have been misguided. These YouTubers have good thumbnails. All you did was take Joey Graceffa's face and then cover Freddy's with it. And then put YouTube's logo over the Freddy title in the really crappy white box that you drew with the brush tool. I could have done something better using MS Paint. I do the thumbnails for most of these videos if you didn't know. And at 6, 5 Nights at Sonic's. Look, it's hard to make a game, no arguments. However, it's even harder to make a good game on Scratch. But the amount of 5 Nights at Sonic games there are on Scratch hurts me on a deep level. I've talked about 5 Nights at Sonic's before on another fan games list, but the thing is, it's not different from FNAF. The gameplay is exactly the same, if not a little clunkier, and the only thing that's different is the animatronics. They aren't even modeled, they're made to look 3D, they're just static. And while I understand what it takes to make a game, the rest of the FNAF fan base, or at least the majority, doesn't. So, they're complaining that the only way to make a good FNAF game is to add something new, but I disagree. You can have a good fan game that plays similarly to FNAF. Take 5 Nights at Candy's for example. However, their graphics are on par if not better than the original FNAF. But a game like Joy of Creation Story Mode is a great game because it adds something new. If you want to make a great FNAF fan game, take your time with it. Have good graphics and craft a good story. Make your own characters and then you find something new to add into the mix and then boom, you're golden. Do something like just draw all the characters flatly with no shading and then use the same mechanics from FNAF 2 and it can't be good. And it definitely won't be. Just like my grammar. Halfway through at number 5, Five Nights at Wario's. This game is in a similar vein to Five Nights at Sonic's, and while Sonic may feature characters from both Sonic and Mario, Five Nights at Wario's only focuses on the Nintendo spectrum of characters. The game's loading screen is horrifyingly awkward. The faces of Wario and Luigi are just all kinds of wrong. However, the game also plays exactly the same as FNAF. Like, even Scott Cawthon was able to find ways to mix things up. And while FNAF World may not have been a terrible success, I found myself loving the Danger Keep Out minigame in the Curse of Dreadbear DLC.
I can't reset the power until Chica's gone. I've reset Chica. Oh. Come on, go. Reset, come on.
The game plays exactly like the original FNAF, and it's why everyone dislikes it. If you wanted to play FNAF, you could just play FNAF. And like I said, sure, you can make a good game if you use the same mechanics like FNAC, but FNAC also has their own animatronics, their own characters. But with Five Nights at Wario's, you are literally just fighting against other famous characters like Wario, Waluigi, Mario, Luigi, and Peach. If you had made your own, I would have enjoyed it, but you didn't. So that's why you're on this list. And at 4, the worst FNAF World game ever made. The funny thing about this title is that it's basically just FNAF World. Boom! Roasted! But actually though, the game is literally the worst FNAF World game. The screen is split into the full screen game and then another version of the exact same thing, taking up a quarter of your screen in the top left. The ability to focus on that corner is lost to me, and I don't want to have to touch this game with a 10-foot pole. The game gets stuck on a new item screen for like 5 minutes, and then it's just basically FNAF World, which is really illegal and does not fall under fair use since the damn thing isn't different enough. It's not like if the game has bugs and then you fix them, it's a different game. Unless it's Skyrim, because if it's Bethesda, it's not a bug, it's a feature. But still, fixing bugs or making more content doesn't change the contents of the game, and therefore the game is highly illegal. It's only at number 4 because it will get worse from here. Bear with me. These next few are laughable. And at 3, Mini-Rena. Oh no, a little doll jumped onto my face. Whatever am I going to do? Take it off. That's it. The jump scare doesn't even end your game. It's just slightly inconveniences you. Honestly, it may even help you if you're playing the Sister Location VR fan recreation that Eddie VR has been playing on his channel. It got to a point where he actually holds onto the Mini-Rena to help make himself feel better, especially when Baby is coming in for a jump scare. He's gotten so used to it that even when stressed, it doesn't really seem to affect him. That's desensitization right there. Plus, the Mini-Renas aren't scary, only if they want to climb inside you. Not a euphemism, that literally happens in a Fazbear Frights book. Maybe that's why they're on your face. They want you to swallow them. And like, I'm not here to kink shame, but that's kinda sus. But ultimately, in at number 2, Red Freddy. There is one mysterious jump scare from FNAF VR that confused the masses when first found. And a lot of you might not know this, it depends on how plugged you are into the FNAF VR world. A version of what seemingly is Freddy, where you can only see a glowing red outline of his nose and teeth. Or eyes, I'm not sure. It's weird and we don't understand why it's there, but out of all the jump scares on this level, it might be the least scary. You can find this in the Pizza Party minigame of FNAF VR, the last level that you unlock after finishing all the other minigames, but it's still not scary. You can't really see anything but red outlines, and you're just left confused. And sometimes feeling a little dirty, but that's okay. We love you anyway, you crazy freak, you. Don't worry, I'm clinically insane as well, so we're in this together. Finally, in at number 1, Foxy. There's a reason everybody thought that Foxy was a good guy, because his jump scare isn't really a jump scare, at least in FNAF 1. The scariest thing about it is the noise. Other than that, this guy just kind of leans into the doorway and then the game goes back to the menu. It's pretty lame if I'm honest, but at least it gave us some variety. But this scare is so not scary that people legit thought Foxy was a good guy. That's almost as bad as being so bad that Scott had to make another game to scare you, like Springtrap in the last list. That's why this is number 1, but it also is just kind of boring. This scare is vanilla, it's basic. It's the white girl with her pumpkin spice and Ugg boots in the fall taking pictures in a pile of leaves with hashtag blessed as the caption basic. Yeah, that's right, I'm calling you out. You are as basic as the Foxy jump scare, if that's you. You're welcome. Foxy's been on this list so many times. Why is Foxy just not scary? I don't get it.
And at 10, forgetting Foxy. I'm pretty sure the Foxy mechanic was added to help prevent the player from just keeping their screen down the whole night, since you can't really be jump scared if you don't bring up the tablet with the cameras unless you're looking at the wrong side of the office. So Foxy is a way to ensure that you have to look at the cameras to hold him back, otherwise it's guaranteed that you're going to be jump scared. However, forgetting about Foxy and not checking Pirate's Cove is a horrible idea. idea, even if unintentional. My personal strategy is to put the camera on Pirate's Cove whenever I'm closing the tablet, just to ensure that the next time I open it, Foxy gets his dose of eyes on him. So just like Peanut, you know, the SCP, he will stay in place. And that just makes sure that I don't forget about him, because my reaction time is not fast enough to stop him from getting into the office. In at 9, music box. The music box is in essence FNAF 2's equivalent to Foxy, having to keep the music box wound on a specific camera to ensure the puppet doesn't do that really creepy walk thing to jump at your face. The puppet also isn't fooled by a mask, making me think that it would instead get launched at you in the original FNAF 2, but who knows. The VR version of FNAF 2 though is much easier, with you just needing to hold down the button like Eddie VR does when he played through the game. He just held it down and used his other hand. But either way, forgetting to wind the music box is a big mistake. In FNAF 1, all you need to do was look at Foxy, but in FNAF 2, you have to go to the camera and then intentionally wind it, and it's certainly something else. It's another layer that you need to be aware of. At least you get a little warning when the music box is running low though. I think that this makes the strategy of leaving the camera on the prize counter when you close it a good idea as well, since at that point, even if it's really close, you don't need to spend time trying to freak out and like look for the actual camera before you get sprung. It's just up there, so you can just rewind it real quick. In at 8, speedrunning. Trying to speedrun something like FNAF is actually impossible, with each individual night having a set amount of time that you need to get through to actually survive. Around 42 seconds per hour if memory serves. However, there are certain aspects of the game that you can try and speedrun, particularly in FNAF VR and the additions like the Curse of Dreadbear Halloween DLC. Games like The Hallway, Build a Dreadbear, Corn Maze, and a couple others can actually be speedrun in a sense, since these aren't reliant on surviving until 6 AM. These are reliant on completing a set of tasks, like collecting a key and leaving a maze, or completing a brain for an animatronic. These kinds of things can be speedrun, however it's still not a good idea. Trying to speedrun something like the Corn Maze will absolutely result in a failure or a jump scare, since Foxy always knows where you are, and the only way to actually avoid him is to hide behind cardboard cutouts. But these cutouts are only in specific places, meaning you need to camp one and then wait for him to see you in order to be the most effective. But ultimately, it's just a bad idea and you should avoid it.
And at 7, Bitty Baps. The Bitty Baps from Sister Location are like baby's little siblings. I can't say kids because, well, she's possessed by a kid, so it feels weird, but they're basically mini versions of her, except without any red cheeks or hair. And you want to know one thing that I don't find scary? Babies. Babies aren't scary. I mean, sure, they'll bite your face off like an adult in a bath salt-filled rage. They aren't actually that scary. Same goes for the animatronics. Sure, they may get you the first time, but every other time, they just seem kinda cute. I don't know, something about chubby babies that I'm not gonna have to buy anything for are just, they're so cute. But like, if I have to pay for them because they're mine, then suddenly they become less cute. I hardly have enough money for myself. And yes, I'm calling out all the parents right now who have babies, okay? Unless you pay me, in which case you're doing great, you're wonderful parents. Please don't fire me, Liam. Or Landon. And at 6, special delivery. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The jump scares in special delivery aren't scary. The designs of the animatronics are, and if they were real, I'd be crapping myself on a regular basis, especially the final two in the top 10 scariest special delivery animatronics video. You should go check that out if you haven't already. But the actual jump scares themselves aren't scary. Why do I think that, you ask? Well, because they're on my phone screen. They're small and you're watching them come at you, at least for the most part. Like, the animatronics are normally scary because they have power over you. And on a phone, you don't really feel that same sense of powerlessness because, well, you can see that they aren't actually there. You can only see them on a small screen. And your focus can cut from that screen at any moment. You can say the same about the other games, sure, but when it's a monitor that you're actively looking around on, you tend not to get distracted because it's not like they're actually there. The same thing applies to the jump scares on mobile versions, but again, the whole point of FNAF AR is that they're in your house, but they aren't, and you can clearly see that, thus losing the immersion and thus the scare factor. If FNAF AR gets a VR port, though, it will definitely be a different story. That would be cool, but it would require Oculus and other VR headset companies to not have black and white only cameras on the headset, because like they just use those to track your movement. But if they had like color cameras that were actually decent quality, it would be expensive, but holy crap, would that be insane. Halfway through into number 5, Ennard. Ennard is a creepy animatronic, but one thing that is certainly creepy but not scary is the jump scare from the Ennard vent repair when you think that you've defeated him but he's actually still alive. Now, don't get me wrong, that is terrifying the first time, but after you know that it's coming, it then loses its effect, even in blacklight mode, unless you've forgotten about it through the intensity that is the puzzles, which is understandable, but when you get to remember it, it doesn't get you nearly as much as the first time. And whereas jump scares when you're playing the main game can get you every time, since you never really know when they're coming, set jump scares like this in a story sense don't really have the same effect, which is unfortunate. It's just how humans work though. Most of the actual scary part of the thing we call being scared is the fear of the unknown. Every human has it. That's why if we see shadows that we don't know the origins of, we get nervous, or if something random is on the road in the middle of the night that we can't see, we get scared. It's just human nature. It's why we're looking for answers to the universe, but not searching our oceans for some reason. And for Freddy. The only way I've lost in FNAF 1 is because I've run out of power. I like to play cautiously. It's like the opposite of what I like to live dangerously. Just caution. Caution! However, the characters never jump scare me without me running out of power, and that makes things incredibly predictable. So when I hear the March of the Toreador start playing, I know it's coming. It's not really scary when you run out of power because there's so much buildup. It's again, expected, and that ruins the scare. Just like how if you know when the jump scare in a movie is gonna happen, they don't scare you. It may startle you, but nothing more. It's the same thing here. In VR though, it's a different story.
Getting close to the end, in at number 3, not listening. Sound is such a vital part of FNAF. So many different aspects of the game actually rely on sound, especially in FNAF 4, 5, and 6. FNAF 4 requires you to listen to the doors before opening them to know what side they're coming down. In FNAF 5, you needed to know where Ballora is and where Funtime Foxy is in their respective areas. And in FNAF 6, you need to listen for the scrapped animatronics to make sure that you don't get jump scared while you're busy working on getting that sweet, sweet lore, bro. But ignoring the sound will result in ultimate failure. I used to play the game without sound. The game would actually be physically muted because I was playing it on the school bus or in class for research, something like that. And yes, it was actual research because one of my projects in grade 9 was based on FNAF. Either way, not having sound certainly makes the game not scary, but it also makes the game much more difficult because I couldn't even hear if Chica was in the kitchen. So I'd have that door closed a lot more than normal just because I was trying to find Chica, which would also result in me running out of power. Look, I wasn't a risk taker at the time, in FNAF, life, or with girls, but now I am a risk taker in FNAF. But ultimately, in at number 2, too much door. Going along with the whole not listening thing, using your doors too much will result in death every single time, even if the doors make no goddamn sense. The doors use the absolute most power in the original FNAF, making you run down very quickly, around 1% every 5 seconds or so, at least from memory. And using it in combination with other things like the lights or the cameras only makes it worse. Much worse, in fact. Especially if you're using everything at once, which is just stupid. The doors should only be used when the characters are at your blind spots, which makes the game very risky since they can at points skip that spot if you're on the cameras. So if you adopt a strat of using the lights before checking the camera, you could be in for a save. However, there's a lot more to factor in rather than just those individuals. The Freddy Files doesn't even really help with this kind of thing. I mean, maybe I should make a video called playing FNAF the way Scott Cawthon intended or something, and see how far I can get just based on the strategies from the Freddy Files Updated Edition. But then again, like I said, I'm not a risk taker. Wait, no, I said I am a risk taker now. Damn it! Finally, in at number 1, playing. Probably the biggest mistake that you can make in FNAF history, and the one I tend to try and avoid, is actually playing the game. Just think about it. If you don't play FNAF, then you don't have to worry about the jump scares or the stress at all, or hell, even the timeline. You can just sit there and watch other people scream on your behalf. And isn't that everyone's dream? And it's not even just a dream theory, it's just a dream. It's probably the biggest mistake you can make, and it's just because you decided to boot up the game. I've only played FNAF VR a handful of times, and while I do still suffer at the hands of Freddy Fazbear and Scott Cawthon, that's not due to me playing the game. That's because of you people and your unwillingness to click on literally any other kind of video we release.